welcome to the Adulting Call. This is your first time, we're glad you're here, and if it's your not first time, if it's not your first time, then welcome back.
Welcome.
Please feel free to subscribe, like, share,
tell your friends.
Shenanigans. Yes, please be sharing it to other people. So yes, today we're going to be talking about homeschooling. And this topic is very dear to us because, well, we were homeschooled for pretty much all our lives.
Till high school.
Till high school. And so the other day, a certain someone who is popular on the internet for causing trouble once in a while, we will not mention who, but yes, this individual put up a post asking about homeschooling because he was like, oh, he would like to homeschool his children. And so he wanted to know what people thought about it. And so I personally didn't actually see the post. Joy was the one who saw the post, and
yeah, people's comments were triggering me. So I saw the post and
tell the story.
I don't even follow him. Yeah, I think it was like probably Explore or something. So I was like, oh, let me see people's comments because like it's personal. And I was seeing some of the comments and I'm like, why would you say people who are homeschooled would have like problems socializing? Like, no. So I said, I must talk. So I collect phone, type it. I was like,
and
made it super long.
One ridiculously long comment. Like even now, I'm going back through the comments again, and there are a lot of really, really long posts. Like people had a lot to say on the subject, which is interesting because I don't know that homeschooling in Nigeria has ever really been a thing, right? Because everybody just has the mindset that, oh, to be educated, you need to go to school. So before we get into all the story, what is homeschooling actually? And at its most basic definition is giving your children an education at home instead of in the conventional school.
95.
I was going to say 95 also, but then it's like it's not technically 95, but like conventional
8 to
school.
4 or 8 to 1, depending on where you went to school. When I went to high school, in secondary school, there was the first secondary school, that one was from 8 to 4. The second one I went to, that was from 8 to 1. Even though they used to lock us in until a particular time, like prison.
Oh Lord! Yeah. But essentially, yes, homeschooling is giving your children an education at home. And I think somewhere where I'd want to start is like the misconceptions of homeschooling. I think people will be like, oh, you homeschool because you don't have money to take your children.
You need plenty money, I'm sorry.
Or some people feel like, oh, if you homeschool your children, they would be,
of course, social
misfits.
Or like it's only for people who are like stay-at-home parents.
Yeah, that's another thing. And I feel like, you know how they talk about like agents of socialization? Sorry, I'm going to be sounding like a sociology lecturer or something. The whole concept of agents of socialization is like family, and I guess people also like tie school into it. But the truth of the matter is that, yeah, I'm going to say it and then I will correct myself and make it not sound as bad as it is in my head. But I feel like school is overrated. And when I say school is overrated, I mean the idea that it's in school that people socialize.
Yeah. And also the concept of like socialization is not you interacting with people like, oh, hi, hello.
Exactly.
It's like how you are.
That's a very good
point.
Yeah, socialization is not you interacting with people. Human interaction is different from actually being social. Because I know some people who went to conventional schools and they are the most socially awkward people that exist. And I know people who are homeschooled and they are absolutely wonderful socializers. I don't know, they're good at people. Yeah, they're good at relating with people. And so the whole concept of socialization is actually something that's supposed to be gained in family.
Yeah.
It's at home exactly. It's at home that you learn how to interact with people, how to not be awkward, how to interact, how to be respectful, all the things that make you a good human in society.
Mind you, you'll always be awkward in life. That's just, I was thinking about this thing today, and the concept of like being awkward when you're around people. I feel like everybody has some people don't fear. They don't care. But it's like how you choose to express the awkwardness. You get like when you meet someone new, I'm pretty sure you feel awkward about it, but then someone might not externally say it.
Yeah.
Versus people who come to stage and are like they're shy, because they want you to know that they're feeling very uncomfortable in this situation.
And I feel like it's an element of your personality, right? So like regardless of whether you went to school or not, if you're an introvert, it's going to be uncomfortable for you to meet people. If you're an extrovert, you know, saying like you will interact with anybody just fine. So the whole idea that, oh, because of the method of education, you're somehow socially challenged is, and I don't want to sound like someone who is debating, you know, those, I hope I have been able to convince and not confuse you.
You will be convinced. You will be convinced.
My own point is just like have a conversation about it and not necessarily convince you to homeschool. Because interestingly enough, for me, so like my mother, shout out to my mother, because like she literally sacrificed a lot. She literally sacrificed so much to homeschool us, because then she wasn't able to do as much as she would have done if she wasn't homeschooling us. But I now had the mindset where I was like, please, I wanted to be a doctor once in my life. Yeah, so in my head I was like, I'm not homeschooling my children, please, they'll go to school, they'll be all right. And then eventually, obviously, medical school didn't happen, clearly. And then I was like, okay, on the second thought, I actually do want to homeschool my children, because when I look at this society, dear Lord, yeah, I really would like to be able to give my children the foundation that they need to actually be successful in life. And once again, going back to that socialization thing, if you don't teach your children how to interact correctly and understand what's going on in their society, then when they actually get into the real world, as people call it, they're going to have a lot of problems. Because, so say for example, right, like your child's first exposure to your child's first exposure to the idea of gender these days.
That's a big one.
That's the big. So like, let's say your child's first exposure to gender is in school. Chances are they're going to get the wrong understanding of it, depending on who the person that is teaching them is. And here we can always argue that, okay, you put them in a school where they have all the rights, this and that and that. But the truth of the matter is that you can't control what they get fed outside.
Yeah.
And so it's important for you to put the right foundation in them earlier on, before you send them off to somebody to now be the one that's influencing them.
The concept of sending a child to school before they can even speak, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Because they can't actually communicate what exactly happened. So you come back home and they're like, how was your, you can't even ask them how was your day, because technically they can't even tell you. Right?
Oh. And then another misconception is the idea that, oh, people who homeschool their children want to be protective or want to shield their children.
Yeah.
And like we're having a conversation about the whole concept of shielding and not, and she's of the opinion that
shielding is not shield. It's not a bad thing if you look at the meaning of the word. See, it beats me. It beats me. I will stand with this.
I mean, so for me, it's like, well, technically, there's really not a problem with you wanting to actually shield your child, right? Because we're watching this movie. It's called October 1. So
good movie, good film. Watch it. Don't be watching rash things in your life, in case you know what's rash.
So like in the movie, right, 2 children in the village were sent to school in Lagos, I think it was. So this was like it was Lagos, I think it was Lagos. This was King's College in Lagos, so it was Lagos. So this was pre-colonial, colonial era, around that time. And so 2 of them were sent to school, and apparently they got abused by the Reverend Father that was supposed to be taking care of them. And so one, he couldn't deal with it, and so like after 2 months he came back home and he said he wasn't going to get an education anymore.
And he didn't tell
anyone what happened, right? The second one decided that he was going to weather through because he really wanted to get that education. And so he went through that for 6 years. And so he comes back to the village, and then he starts killing virgins in the village.
And then
he would cut them and have a cross incision on them. Okay, that's a lot of details. But the point I'm trying to drive at in this whole story is the fact that he blamed everybody in the village for not protecting him.
Yeah.
Because he felt like, why did they send him off with a stranger?
Yeah.
Right? And I understand the importance of independence and you wanting your child to be able to live and do life by themselves. But I think the challenge I have is that we send them off way too early.
I just had a thought, like, you know how the parents be sending their children off to boarding school. But when their children actually become adults and it's not time to let them be,
Sis,
all of a sudden
they're like, don't. They're like, you must.
Continue.
Actually, that's a valid point. And so the whole concept of shielding or not shielding, see, it's your job as a parent to protect your child. Yeah, I'm not a parent, so, but I just
She's my small mommy.
From my experiences, it's your job. Like, the whole point of being a parent is that you have the responsibility to take care of this child. And I'm not saying that everyone who sends their children off to school is shrugging responsibility, but I just feel like people who homeschool their children have a certain level of understanding of the importance of them nurturing their children and directing them in the early days of life, right?
Disclaimer, this is not like for people who are intentionally trying to like cage their
we're not
and
but
trying to avoid them from society, you know, like all those calls, like we're not saying it's cultism. Homeschooling is not cultism.
Inserts a meme here of there's about like what people think homeschooling is, and so like people think like Amish.
Please, we're not cultists.
We're not cultists though, because at the end of the day, there are cultists who send their children to regular school. So technically, this ain't what it's about.
Yeah.
Like, the point is, the fact that somebody chooses to homeschool their child does not in any way negate the importance of socialization, nor does it speak in a negative way to the parents' style of parenting. That makes sense. Like, we're not saying that you choosing to homeschool your children is you trying to be protective of your children. We have friends who are homeschooled that, listen, they were more independent than people who went to like regular school. Because the thing about homeschooling, right, is you learn, if you don't have the discipline by yourself to actually do what you need to do, it's not gonna work. But the thing about conventional school, and I hate to sound like I'm comparing and contrasting, but with conventional school, you're sort of dragged through the motions. So like, you don't really understand the value of what. So there are people who would go to school and then it's like years later they'll be like, oh, I finally understand what they were doing when they made us do.
Wear uniform. Mind you, we wore
uniforms. Yes, we did wear uniforms. See, if I find pictures, because like this
we had like two or three.
We had uniforms, and then I remember there was one day that my parents, it was in the morning, so like I'd already gotten dressed and I wore my uniform, and then I was sent to go and buy bread in the shop. And so I went to the shop, and then this man is like, oh, which school do you go to? Wait, but let me remember. Our school was called Living Spring. Yes, our school was called Living Spring Homeschool Academy. So this man goes, and then how good?
Where's the school?
I need to find that picture, because we had these ridiculously long blue skirts, pleated, with white shirts. And then my daddy went to buy us black shiny shoes, so we would dress up every morning and cream our face, plenty of Vaseline. And so this man is like, so which school do you go to? And I'm like, Living Spring Homeschool Academy. And he's like, where is it? I'm like, it's at home. And the man looks at me like, I don't understand. I'm like, yeah, my school is at home. So how many students do you have? Me and my sister. And you wear uniform? Yes. He was confused. I promise you that man was like, and then to make matters worse, we were Nigerians in Kenya. So he's probably going like, these Nigerians are very strange fellows. Like, what? Oh my goodness.
Like, one time in Nairobi, there was this man that saw me, like those weird neighbors we had, the ones that got arrested.
Yes.
We had neighbors that got arrested.
That's a whole other story.
Anyway, so he saw me and he's like, did you go to school today? I'm just like, yes. Don't ask me questions.
Don't ask me questions. Because then in Nairobi, we scrapped the uniform by the time we got older. And even the system changed a bit in the sense that, so like I had this thing where sometimes I would be reading a novel like from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then I'll now do my classes from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, that kind of thing. But the whole story I'm telling here is like the discipline that it took to be able to actually have that school routine and be like, okay, we're still getting an education and
like
not
how people
slack.
thought we'd wake up in the morning and watch TV.
Yeah.
Like,
it was
we are in school from 8 to 4. We have lunch break, we have snack break,
and we had to ask for permission to put on the TV.
My dad used to be like, what are you going to watch? You have to be explaining the cartoon that you're
going to watch. Log of what you're going to watch.
Ain't no Johnny Bravo there.
Listen. And so like that whole discipline thing, like, so we had to understand for ourselves what it was that we were doing, as opposed to if we just went to school and were going through the motions of going to school.
Yeah.
So that is the story of, well, it's not really the story of our education though, but yeah. So then now questions about homeschooling. So someone asked a question that how does homeschooling work? Who tutors? So the thing about homeschooling, and I think this is another thing that people just jump to conclusions, and if you don't understand it, ask questions, right? So who tutors? So there are different, yeah, so people just give, like, I think people have the expectation that, okay, when you say you're homeschooled, it means that your mother is the one teaching you,
Yeah.
and she's going to be teaching, yeah, and she's going to be teaching you like just the way school works. So yeah, if you know, first of all, there are different school systems in the world, and so with that in mind, there are different approaches to how people can learn. So for example, we did an American system which was curated for, I won't say it was curated for homeschoolers, but it was in such a way that was really convenient to be a homeschooler, right? And so there are different school systems, and so because there are different school systems, the tutoring system is different. So for example, if you're doing the British IGCSE curriculum, you would need to have a teacher because you have different subjects, right? You need to have more than one, unless the person is a tutor who has, let's say for example now, the person can teach physics, chemistry and biology, and then you'd have another physics, chemistry, biology and math, and then another person will teach like arts or whatever. So it's different. So you'd have to do your research and understand what system you want to use, what is the look that you're going for. Do you want the person to learn by themselves, individualized, or would you like them to have the class setting and blah 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 blah. So once you figure out exactly what it is you want, that would determine who tutors, if you're getting a tutor, if you're doing it online. I think with COVID, everybody should know that school is not that deep. You can actually get your education right at home. So yeah, who tutors depends on the system that you go for. Another thing that I think is important to mention about homeschooling, I feel like I'm the one that's talking too much, so I'll hand it over to you in a minute. But another thing is like the idea that, oh, you can't socialize. So just like you intentionally put your child in a school, yes, let me say this now. So you know how some people choose schools where they want their child to be like tush, they want them to have an accent and then that kind of thing. So the way you intentionally choose a school for your child that is going to meet the socio-economic whatever that it is you're going for is the same way your socialization as a homeschooling child works. So you have to be intentional. So it's like, okay, I know that my child is homeschooling and therefore they are not seeing children their age from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So what kind of neighborhood am I living in? So you need to, if it's something you can do, pick a neighborhood where you know that from 4 o'clock to say 6 o'clock, your children get to play with other children in the neighborhood. And then
we used to play with mud. We used to cook mud. Yes, we were cool like that.
I mean, and that's the thing, because like we were the only ones who were homeschooling in our entire estate. So in the mornings would be the only children at home. But then when everybody comes,
peace and quiet.
But then when everybody comes back home, we had hours that we would go out
before
and play.
We were banned from going
out. We never mind. That's another story for another day. Maybe the video will be on punishment. How Nigerian parents punish their children. But okay, anyways. So we had that time, and then church was another place. So you know that on Sundays, pick a church where your children like. So Sundays we had people we were interacting with. And then another thing was like we had homeschooling support groups. So because we were a bunch of families in the city who were homeschooling, so we would have, there were two things we did. It was either play dates or study dates. So play dates is just to go and play. So like maybe field trip, go do something interesting.
Play dates on the videos like what mature individuals. Okay, it was not play dates.
Sorry. Okay, play means like
we had hangouts.
We had hangouts. Like we once went to a TV station. We went to an orphanage. Like we did different things. So, and that's the thing, right? So we had different activities that were designed to like teach us different things. So going to the orphanage made us see that okay, there are children that are left privileged. We went to an old people's home. Like that was really sad. Like all of us were depressed after that experience because this was where people were abandoned. Old people were abandoned, and we sang for them. They were happy and everything. So that was
brought bread and milk.
And we brought bread and milk for them. Some of them like even eating was a challenge because obviously like the government didn't fund.
That one was really sad.
They didn't fund.
I remember the whole landscape.
Mm-hmm. So then we also went to like a yogurt factory. So like different things that were designed to give us all the
And there was
all-round
one
experience.
one of the groups we were in, they decided they wanted to do music classes. So like
As
together,
a group, yeah.
together they decided to get a place where it was like music and sports.
Yes,
They had
I
everything.
remember.
So like obviously we didn't really join with them. I think later on we
Yeah.
tried to like do the classes and stuff, but then like they were doing it together. I remember they even had a show where all of
Yes,
them they were playing
yes.
Doremisha, but it's okay.
They were small children, so we can't judge.
It was not bad.
And so, like, at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that to be a parent, even if your child is in a regular school,
Yeah.
you have to be intentional about ensuring that your child has an all-round experience, right? Because you know how, like, some parents will be complaining that, oh, why are we paying so much money for the teachers to now be sending the children back home to help us do homework? At the end of the day, see, you need to bond with your child. It's a given. And your children need to learn experiences from you. So whether you like it or not, like send them to school from 8 to 5 in the morning, from 8 to 5. At the end of the day, you still have the role that you have to play. And so I think like with homeschooling, that's the advantage, that you play a more active role. So where was I going with this entire story? Is the fact that you have to be intentional about ensuring that your children have that experience of socialization, in the term that we use it these days, so that they are then able to now experience life in all facets, right?
Yeah. And
So-
so, as we said, socialization is like knowing the acceptable way to behave.
Yeah.
And so it's not about me, because you can have your child going to regular school and your child is a bully and
Yeah.
chewing other children's ears, right? But then the point is you need to teach them how to behave.
Exactly. And so, I mean, I really do think that the whole, they need to interact with people is overrated, because for me personally, I hate competition. Let me just say it now. I hate competition. And conventional school
It thrives on
is
competition.
about competition. So I remember, I remember people would see me and be like, oh, have you done exams? Yes, we didn't really have like exams, we had tests, continuous assessment, right? And then they'll be like, oh, so what position were you?
Number one. I was always number one.
I was always number one. Hello. But like, I mean, I feel like, what's the point of that kind of question? What position were you? Like,
Yeah.
so if I was now 30th and I understood the concept, but I just didn't write it the way they wanted.
yeah, the person that is number one might be 1 mark above you, right?
Or they might just be somebody that knows how to mug up, cram and...
Or they might just be super smart, and that's fine.
And
Maybe
it's,
book is not for everybody like that. So.
exactly. And so I feel like obviously, like, because in school they're not going to be sitting down and paying that much attention to, like, okay, what is the unique ability of this student? Not many schools are going to do that, right? And so it's on you, the parent, to now be like, okay, this is my child, they like to read, but then when it comes to writing, they're not able to communicate as clearly. So what kind of future does this child have? Maybe they can become an editor. Or what you get. So like, at the end of the day, you just have to put in the work and understand that, okay, this is who my child is, and this is this and that and that and all of that. And I feel like homeschooling gives you that opportunity without plenty effort that you
Pressure.
need. Yeah, like, and so at the end of the day, Sha, it's really not that deep that your children don't see other children for a few hours. It's really not that deep, I promise. It's not that deep. And this is not to castigate people that choose to send their children to regular school. Do you? But shall know that you still have to put in plenty work.
But stop
to
the
raise
homeschooling
them.
slander. Because my issue is not that you're sending your child to regular school,
Fair
but then
enough,
you're
it's
saying this is why homeschooling is not working. I'm just like, have you tried it that you know? Because I have done both, right?
Yeah.
So nobody can talk to me.
Actually,
We've done both, and like you see, I've seen. I won't say that there's any pros to regular school that homeschooling doesn't have, because honestly,
Yeah.
the 4 years that I was in, it was 4 years, yeah, 4.5 years that I was in high school.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, there's always been those struggles of trying to like be accepted and everything. But I went to school, like the first school I went to, my classmates did not like me. Let me just say that.
I'm sorry,
Most of them didn't like
and that's actually another thing, right? So just because you're actually socializing doesn't mean that you're
Be
getting
good on
a
you.
positive social
Yeah.
experience.
So that
because
thing where
she
you're-
went to school and they
Yeah,
didn't like her.
they're like cursing and everything, and I'm like, I want to maintain a pure mind, so I'm gonna report it to the school counselors. They came and did counseling for us about like language and everything, or maybe like y'all are putting the AC too high, and I'm like, why are you wearing a sweater and putting on the AC? Why do you want to kill me? You get this kind of thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean that socializing is even
Yeah,
them
it's going to
any
be a
good.
positive experience, and honestly, that's actually a valid point. So it's not that deep.
And then now after lockdown happened, and we had to like go back to like uni online. Not do some of us as much as maybe it did some other people. Some of us were happy because they don't have to. I'm sorry, let me sound like I'm an antisocial person. You don't have to see people, right? Do your work by yourself because there's a lot of distraction. It's kind of like even 9 to 5 these days can be very distracting because some people are not there to work. They're there to play.
I have done 9 to 5, and at the end of the day, the gist, because unless like okay, when your guys are around, there's way you behave differently. But in all honesty, there will be days when you just come and all you do is gist from one gist to the other, from one gist to the other, and at the end of the day, you're not as productive as if you were working alone.
Yeah.
But another thing, like for me personally, I don't like group work because here I have a goal. I'm getting there. All this, so what do you think? No, let's do it like this. And then we've agreed, and then the following day, one person goes and like, oh, I was scrolling on the internet, and I'm like, and this is not me being antisocial, but it's just me like, let's get to where we're going faster. And I'm not the only one. People who go to regular school also, they don't necessarily care for. So at the end of the day, the summary of this whole story, homeschooling or not, the most important thing is that you're being intentional about being a parent. I don't know how we are talking about, like, I feel so weird. Like, I literally feel like I'm schooling parents right now. But the most important thing is that you're being intentional about your parenting, because at the end of the day, whether your child is going to school or they're sitting at home to learn, you still have a lot of work to do, right? The whole responsibility of ensuring that they are the right kind of people in society is really important. You can't leave it for the teachers. You can't claim that, oh, I'm so busy working that the school should take care of them, because if the school takes care of them the way they sometimes people regret some of the decisions that they make. And so at the end of the day, it's like, just understand what homeschooling is. If it doesn't work for you, awesome. If it does, good. But even if it doesn't, don't now turn it into a crime, like, oh, these people
parents who are homeschooling
they are trying to shield their children, they're trying to be overprotective, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, last, me that was homeschooled, I know somebody that was not. I get around life a lot better than that person. So it's not a case of.
And like the summary of all of this, right? The reason why we're here in the first place is now like, how did this actually help or not help like your whole adulting, like as you're going through life and everything? Like, what did it do for you? What did it not do for you? So for me as a person, I feel like it made me better, because there are times in life where you need to work by yourself. You need to motivate yourself. You need to do everything. You need to take initiative by yourself. And if I was going to, especially because like I was in a different country, and there was just being in the different country did a lot on like maybe self-esteem or like how you see things. But then at least I was grounded. I was grounded. It grounded me and everything. So last, if you want to come and tell me something that I don't agree with, I'm not going to agree with it just because I've been socialized in that sense, right? And so now when I need to do things by myself also, I am able to do it.
I feel like that's the strongest thing, is the individualization. Like, you become an individual entity. Because you're pushed to do everything by yourself. Because I remember when we were in Kenya, like all the people that went to uni, those people who are older than us that went to university, one thing that they all kept on saying that their lecturers would say about them is like, oh, the people that were homeschooled, they are very disciplined, like they know how to work, they know how to do things by themselves. You're not hounding them. Not the people that on the morning of submission of assignments is when they are looking for pens to use to write the assignment. Not saying that just because you went to school that becomes your story, exactly. But there's a level of independence,
especially because of the curriculum we did. If you waste your time, sit down on one place for 2 months. It's your business. You won't. You're
literally the one who decides
whether you're going to finish.
Exactly.
So technically, you know that this is my goal. If you like, leave your work till last minute. Now you go supper, right? So you take responsibility for yourself. So like, even again after COVID happened, you know.
Yes. I feel like, honestly speaking, like COVID was really important in us redefining what it means to be so. Because this could be a whole other topic, right? But like, a lot of people will be like, oh, do I want to shake this table? I don't think I want to. It's okay, let's leave it. We will end today's episode here because that would be very controversial. But yes, thank you so much for watching. Homeschooling or not, Please raise your children well.
Biko.
The
streets are not smiling anymore.
But yes, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe,
tell a friend to tell a friend,
tell another friend,
especially your family members.
Yes. Please subscribe. Please subscribe.